let me know. Give me a call. I don't care. You don't care. Whatever. Okay, now we have most of the fundamentals, but what's the overall picture, right? What's the roadmap? What roadmap do we have? So what is a roadmap, right? A roadmap is kind of like a guide. It's very general, non-specific. You know, all the details will be once you go through the roadmap. It's kind of like a normally you have like timings on there. There's a lot of different types of timelines or roadmaps, right? But I just want you to think of it as like a timeline and as a like guide step by step wise, right? So the first thing is to understand what a roadmap is, of course, right? And let's plan everything out, right? Because this stuff takes time. This stuff takes months, and you can waste a lot of time. So, but all in all, it is a plan. So that's what we're doing. We are planning it out. So the first thing to focus on, right, is pick where you want to be number one, right? Like in an honest way. And what do I mean by in the honest way? So, priorities, right? Are you selling something? Are you, what is the goal of the website, right? What is your goal? And then after you figure out what your goal is, you want that to align with keywords, your website in general, and the audiences who is going to search all this stuff up, right? So all this stuff is very important that it aligns. You want to align basically everything for the user and yours, what they need, why they need it, explain to them how you got it as well. It's another big thing. But what are your priorities? What are we going to be using for the rest of this video, right? So your priorities should be pretty simple, more or less, right? They shouldn't be the same for everybody, of course, or I would just put your priorities here. But they're not super complex as well. It's not it's not like a one-size-fit-all kind of thing. You have to figure those out. So after you're done with your priorities, right, you want to map it backwards, work it out backwards. I'm sure you've done that before. Start at end. So you want to start at the end and then work backwards. So what do I mean by this, right? So the end goal is number one. So work backwards. How did this company get there? How can we emulate that? What content can we provide? Why would someone want to go to our website? How can we funnel people to our website that is not organic traffic? What is all the different situations, all the different things that you can do to get people into your topic, into your website, into your cluster? Of course, if you have multiple pages, there's different number one categories, right, or whatever you want to call it. So after you've worked it from, the end to the goal and worked backwards, next you want to see what they did, of course, and realize that it's really easy to over or underestimate the time needed. So the planning fallacy, right, which is that you will do it quicker. So I'm sure you've heard of double your plan time, right? That helps, of course. You don't know, it's a rough draft. So it's a rough slash mutable, and it's general, right, as well. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution for anything. So you have to realize that your timeline is just that. It's a timeline. You don't know 100%. So there's intrinsic, extrinsic things that affect it, inside, outside. So there's a lot of different things that go into why it's a fantasy and why our brains think we can do it faster. But it's just a good rule to double it, time-wise, especially if you're quoting anybody, right? But to actually get it done, you want to set daily goals, right? Like daily, I'm going to do this today, do that. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to wait and you're not going to get anything done, right? So next thing you want to do is do those daily goals. So daily goals / milestones. So doing it all in one milestone can be very overwhelming. So you want to set up daily ones. You want it not to be too overwhelming, but you don't want it to be too small either. So it's like you're actually going to be doing work, right? Like it's going to take some time to get the right balance of everything. But for right now, you just want to start making progress every day. It doesn't matter how small the progress, and you're not going to see the results until like weeks or months. So it could be multiple different things. But just keep on working at it, trying to isolate. Do as much as you can and like the first month, and then change things. Like isolate them. Try to isolate them as much as possible so we can see what's actually happening. So another big thing is the map is not the mountain, right? Like we use like a mountain analogy of what our timeline is. Like the timeline is a map of the landscape, right? So you have to realize that maps don't equal reality. If they did equal reality, there would be no purpose of them, right? Because they don't consolidate information. So maps are more consolidated versus reality, which is more dynamic, right? Maps don't typically change a lot unless you get like a new edition or something like that, but they don't change right in front of you. The situation does. There's a lot of different things, how algorithms update, rerouting, defending that number one spot. There's a lot of different things that go into it. It's so multifaceted, but you have to realize that it's just a map, right? Like plans can go wrong, different stuff can happen. It's really difficult because Google only puts out so much information out there. Now let's get into some myths, right? So you can't guarantee a number one ranking. No one can. It's not random, but Google goes through and it's like, okay, this one's number one for a little while, and then it changes and it changes and it changes. No one can guarantee you it. You can work towards it, but you can't be guaranteed it because there might be something better out there. You just don't know, right? Rank number one for the biggest keyword. That's gonna be very difficult, and there's other keywords too. Like one keyword isn't, one per page what you're supposed to do, but you don't have to limit yourself as well. You can always continual work. So there's no fast track to the other. You can't just pay somebody unless you do Google Ads, which is expensive, and it goes back to the well and bottled water phenomenon we talked about before. So your timeline typically isn't realistic, like we said before. And if the plan breaks, you just adapt. You can change the plan. It's not set in stone. So the last section we're going to cover is your summit plan. So one page, it's a MVP. We'll put it that way. So if you haven't started at all, the MVP for SEO. So a lot of acronyms, right? MVP is minimal viable product. So that's the minimal things you can do to start. Minimal to start. And search engine optimization is that number one ranking, of course. So you want minimal, then you want to iterate, which means improve, right? And then after you're done iterating and doing that a bunch, you can try to get into number one ranking. And again, it's not like guaranteed at all. I would never guarantee anything like that. And again, this takes weeks, months, it can take years too, depends on, once again, Google sees time as trust, right? So there's more things to go over, but this is just the roadmap. So first, we'll go through it real quick, right? What is a roadmap? It's a guide, it's in general, it's a plan. You're going to figure out your priorities. After you figure out your priorities, work backwards. So work at where you're at, work at where you want to be, and then see how they got there, and then work your way back to the start, and then start at the end of your new, you know what I mean, just work backwards. I'll just say that. Then you have the planning fallacy. So you want to double the amount of time some stuff takes because of that fallacy. It happens, it is affecting you as well. You can't just say it doesn't affect you. That's another fallacy or another bias. Anyways, so set daily goals, milestones to keep it doable as well. You don't want to do something like getting to number one is like something you can't even really measure completely. You want to get certain metrics, and what you can't measure, you can't test, right? So you want to map does not equal reality. So the timeline might change. It doesn't have to be solid. It can be changing, so it might not be right. And then the MVP or minimal viable product. So there's birds outside. Anyways, so the smallest possible thing you can get out there, right? That's what MVP stands for. You want to get it out there, just start it out there so Google starts doing stuff to it. Once you get that minimal, you want to iterate, add content to it, add keywords, refine it. That's what basically iterating is refining in these steps here. And then you try to get to the number one ranking. So you don't want to just expect it to be done like that, because it's not going to be, right? You can expect it all you want, but that's not what's going to happen. That doesn't even look like a 6. But anyways, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. My website, of course. I'm going to be moving on to the next video real soon. So how do I tell if it's actually working, right? So that's a whole new video. That's what the next one's going to be about. And if you have any other questions, just let me know. I'd be happy to help. Yeah, thank you. So we keep talking about measuring, right? And it's really important to measure. So let's focus this video on how do we measure successfully, truly? How do we be honest with ourselves? I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into measuring. So right now we're going to focus on Measure 101. I don't know why my camera keeps doing this. Figure video, more control. Zoom should not be automatic. Alright, so how to measure, right? That's Measure 101. So we've done all the other stuff, we did the roadmap, now we got to figure out how do we measure and measure effectively. So there's a lot of different things we can do, right? But first we have to understand what are we measuring and why, right? I mean, you can mislead yourself really easily when you're measuring, you can lie to yourself, oh, that's the same as misleading. But it can really trip you up, is what I'm basically trying to say there. And a really good way to understand your problem is to first understand what is your business trying to do, what is your website trying to do, what is this trying to do, what is that trying to do, what are you trying to do, what's your goal, right? So we have to measure to a goal, and then you also have to look at what's available. So not everything is going to be available to you when you're dealing with anything online or online traffic or anything like that. So those are the two main things to focus on when we're measuring, right? What is available to us right now, and what can we expect to be available to us in the future? Stuff like that. So we already did the roadmap, but now let's look through and understand which metrics are what. So the first thing to understand is also there's vanity metric, actionable, there's all these different types of metrics that some you can use, some you can't. Vanity is the one that just looks good, stuff you can put on things, but vanities are also useful as well. They're not completely unuseful. So you have to understand that there are going to be a lot of different people, a lot of different measuring. So let's go into what is vanity versus what is the actionable, right? So actionable, so vanity is like most popular.